Go to the book of Ephesians, and we're going to read a couple verses out of there, and then we're going to spend most of our morning in the book of Luke. How many have ever been in a fight, and after the fight was all said and done, you ask yourself, why in the world did I get in that fight? Like, what was the point of that? How many have ever gotten mad at something, and when it was all said and done, you're like, what was I all jacked up about? We all have been there. You know, I'm not a fighter by nature, but Brian and I didn't get in any fight except for maybe once that I recall. Two. My mom just told me two. All right, two fights. You have to tell me about the other one. So the only one that my memory says, and what I do remember, I could take you to the house. It's in Weaverville, East Branch Road, the house on the right, second level, TV room upstairs. And something happened where I got really mad, and Brian wasn't, so that my memory tells me that. So probably what happened is Brian antagonized me, and I got all mad, so he's having fun with that. He was actually decent at that. So I had just watched a karate movie, and I had just watched the roundhouse kick. You do a 360 roundhouse kick. If you don't know what it is, Google it. It's pretty cool. So I thought, I'm going to roundhouse kick him. So I do this roundhouse kick. I missed him horribly. It wasn't even close. And then when I came down, my heel came down and hit the corner of the recliner, the wood leg. Oh my gosh, I went to the ground just screaming in pain, and Brian laughed at me and ran out of the room. That is about it. Apparently there was another fight that I don't recall. But see, I'm not a fighter. And today I want to talk about we need to fight the right fights. We need to fight the right fights. I believe as a believer, as a church, it's important that we know which fight to fight and which one to not even think about. And we live in a day and age right now where there's a lot of fights that are being started and picked. And the church is being lured into all these fights, and we don't belong in those fights. It's really important that we get there. So today I actually want to get our attention on fighting the right fights. There's a phrase that I don't know who coined it, but I kind of took it, and whenever I have to determine if I'm going to get engaged with something or not, I always kind of ask myself this question: is this the mountain that I'm willing to die on? And if the answer is no, I'm like, I'm good. But if it's the mountain I'm willing to die on, then that's the fight I need to go fight. And so in the book of Ephesians, in chapter 6, we're going to read verses 10 through 12. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. Let's read the beginning of verse 12 one more time. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood. Now get your Bible over to Luke chapter 13. And as you're turning there, I want to give a really quick context of what's going on in Luke chapter 13. In verses 6 through 8, it's actually a parable of the fig tree. This is not the fig tree that Jesus cursed and told it to die because it didn't bear fruit. This is a whole different fig tree in a parable. So let's read verses 6 to 9, and then I'll kind of give context for the rest of the chapter. He also spoke this parable. A certain man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came seeking fruit on it and found none. Then he said to the keeper of his vineyard, look, for 3 years I have come seeking fruit on this fig tree and find none. Cut it down. Why does it use up the ground? I love that last line. It's like it's just wasting space. Verse 8, but he answered and said to him, sir, let it alone this year also, until I dig around it and fertilize it. And if it bears fruit, well. But if not, after that, you can cut it down. This is kind of the context. I think it's important to understand the context before we get into the story. We're going to spend most of our time together between verses 10 and 17.